Happy day to you all. Welcome to the English class. I hope you're all healthy and sound at your home. Today, we are going to go through the poem Geography Lesson. In this poem, we are going to try and learn the perspective of a person who is observing the city from above, sitting in a jet. To understand this poem better, you need to dust off your geography knowledge. The poem Geography Lesson is written by Zulfikar Ghosh. Zulfikar Ghosh was born on March 13, 1937. He was a novelist, poet, and essayist. Zulfikar Ghosh was a Pakistani-American novelist and poet, born in Sialkot. But the fact is, Zulfikar Ghosh was an Indian-born poet because Sialkot was under the control of India. Only after the partition, Sialkot was given to Pakistan. Just because he belonged to Muslim community, he was forced to migrate to Pakistan. Let's go through the short biography of the poet. Zulfikar Ghosh was born on 13 March 1935 at Sialkot, India. After partition, Sialkot belongs to Pakistan. He is a great novelist, poet and essayist. He graduated from Kial University in 1959. Murder of Aziz Khan, A Different World, The Contradictions, etc. are his famous fictions. Art Council of Great Britain, Bazari 1967 is one of the famous awards he bagged. He is known for bringing in magical realism, blending fantasy and harsh realism in his writing. Now let's go to the introduction of this poem. In this poem, the poet shares his two contradictory perspectives. Here, the word perspective refers as his standpoint or his thoughts. The first one is his social perspective, and the second perspective is a geographical perspective. The poem is about the way Earth looks from different altitudes. It is divided into three parts. The poem is written from the perspective of a person who is observing the city from above, seeing it seated from in a jet plane. As he ascends the heights in the sky, he is able to understand the real meaning of geography. It inculcates in the reader about political divisions. Though the earth seems one in the geographical view, but when you take a look at it in a political view, the earth is divided into many parts. Let's go into the poem. First stanza. When the jet sprang into the sky, it was clear why the city had developed the way it had. Seeing its scale 6 inches to the mile. In the first stanza, we understand that the poet is traveling in the jet. From the jet, he views the land, he views the earth, and he understands how well the cities have developed. The development is much more clear seeing it above from the jet than being in the city. He could view it clearly how these tall buildings are disorderly placed in the city. But one thing he understood, the city has developed far more than he has imagined. If you had the experience of traveling in an aeroplane, definitely you could understand this paragraph very clearly because you knew how the city looks seeing it above from an aeroplane. There seemed an inevitability about what on ground had looked haphazard, unplanned and without style when the jet sprang into the sky. When the jet took off and starts to climb up in the sky, the poet could have full height view of the city. The city grew as per its necessity and did not grow as per proper planning. It does not have any particular style. It even looked 6 inches from a certain height, revealing its true stature. What the poet is trying to express here is the city that human beings have developed have not been well planned. It grew as per necessity. So it is clear that the poet could see everything above from the jet. The poet in the above lines shares his perspective, that means a mental view above the city when viewed from a certain height. When the plane took off from the ground, set to touch the sky, the poet could view the city in a miniature. An area spread over a mile was reduced to 6 inches on the scale. when viewed from above. Seeing a city in its wholesome perspective, the poet is able to understand why the city is designed in the way it is, what appeared a facade characterized by a lack of order or planning, and unplanned on the ground gained clarity and order when viewed from that height. Seeing it from the aeroplane, the city is so clear and you could understand how the city has been built. Let's go into the second stanza. Let me read out it for you. When the jet reached 10,000 feet, it was clear why the country had cities, where the river ran, and why the valleys were populated. In the second stanza, we could understand the geographical standpoint of the poet. It is not the poet's standpoint, in fact, it is the geographical fact. What he has shared in the second stanza is the geographical fact. It gives us the reason why the human population has settled in cities and near the rivers. When the jet reached 10,000 feet, 10,000 feet in kilometer is 3 kilometer. Okay, so it was clear from the country had cities where the rivers ran and why the valleys were populated. So the poet could clearly see from 3 kilometers above the land why the cities are thickly populated and why he could see a lot of population near the rivers. According to the poet, land and water, which are the lifeline and the reason for our survival, attracted the early humans. The land here refers to the green land on which we cultivate food and make the shelter. Like the previous stanza, the poet repeats the line when the jet reached 10,000 feet to tell that he came to know about all this only when the aeroplane was 10,000 feet up in the sky and he could see land and water. And you might have read this in your geography lessons. I'm talking about you have read it in your social book that the civilization flourished first only near the rivers. That's what the poet reiterates in the lines. The logic of geography that land and water attracted man was clearly delineated when the jet reached 10,000 feet. Traveling in the jet made the poet understand the geographical viewpoint or the geographical fact, which we also have studied in our social books. Once again, let me share the context of this stanza. The poet in this stanza feels enlightened to comprehend the logic of geography. Soon the plane attained 10,000 feet in height. It was no longer difficult for the poet to understand the logic of geography or the way the geographical and territorial spaces were designed. He understood that water and land were necessity for human existence. Therefore, the areas near the rivers were abundantly populated. Fact that water and land attracted man was made visible from this height. So from the aeroplane, he understood why there was more human settlement near water bodies. Now let's go on to the third stanza. Let me read out it for you. When the jet rose 6 miles high, it was clear the earth was round and that it had more sea than land. If you try to convert 6 miles into kilometers, we get approximately 10 kilometers. So in this stanza, we understand that the aeroplane is flying in the altitude of 10 kilometers above the land. You might have also read the fact in your geography book that this planet is covered by 3/4 of water. So when you look at this planet from 10 kilometers height, you see more water than land. But it was difficult to understand that the men on the earth found causes to hate each other, to build walls across cities and to kill. At the end of the third stanza, the poet places a very important question to the readers. According to him, he could not understand why people hate each other on earth, why we build walls, here it means borders, across cities, here it means countries, and kill each other. At such a height, the poet sees a single earth and wonders why people are divided. He could not understand that. In the context, the poet in this lines shares mankind's shame at not being able to understand the mystery behind the human hatred or dislike. As the plane attained another 6 miles, it was easier to understand that the earth was round and there was more water than land. But what he just could not understand was that why men hated and killed each other. So here he poses a vital question to all of the readers who read this poem. He could not understand the reason behind building high walls and harboring ill feelings towards others. Geography was never about borders, barriers, and territorial differences when seen from above. Man had given these meanings to geography, and why man did that, he just couldn't gather. Thank you, children. See you in the next class.